Good afternoon, Whale Coin Talk community. My name is Noah. I'm here today with Advay of Cornell Blockchain. Advay, welcome. I'm glad we finally got this on the books. Before we get started talking about Cornell Blockchain, can you give us a quick background of yourself, what you're currently studying, what piqued your interest in Web3, and how you plan on bridging your studies with future career aspirations in this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Noah, so much for having me in the broader Cornell blockchain community. Really honored for this opportunity, and we have a lot of cool things going on. So, really excited to share that with you all here today. So, a little about myself. My name's Advay, currently a junior at Cornell studying math and computer science. Got into the blockchain space in 2020, was fortunate enough to go to a school which had a pretty good computer science program. So, I took 3 years of computer science, freshman, sophomore, and then senior year. In senior year, our teacher proposed to us different projects to work on. So one of them was actually implementing Bitcoin in Java. So I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. And he showed a graph about the mining payouts at the time. I'm like, okay, maybe I can spin up a mining rig at home with the old leftover computers I have and start, making some side money. Looked into it a little bit, figured out it wasn't really that feasible, and talked to my teacher, and he agreed with me. But it was a great stepping stone in the right direction. That summer, I reached out to a small research company called Smith and Crown, which is based out of Portland, Oregon, where I'm from. Was fortunate enough to do research there, and I started learning more about the crypto ecosystem and Web3 and blockchain as a whole. Fell in love, heard about Avalanche at the time, which was doing its first token sale in the summer of 2020. Um, and found out about the Cornell Blockchain Club. And as soon as I came to campus, I knew I wanted to join. And then around 2.5 years, 3 years later, here I am. And I'm very honored and privileged about the amount of work we've been able to do over the past few years. And so, going to one of your question points, what do I plan to do? So, studying math and computer science, I'm very interested in DeFi, especially new models that are coming out there. Constantly, the options market has been developing so much, especially this past year. So, that's the area that I'm slowly looking into, especially trying to apply the math, the financial sector, and the computer science skills that I'm learning here on campus.
Awesome. And I definitely want to jump more into your interest in DeFi and the new models that are coming out. You mentioned the options market. But before we do that, let's take a step back. When you to move up into the leadership and ultimately have a role as a decision maker.
Yeah, absolutely. So you cut out a little bit in the beginning, but I think the question was sort of how did I work throughout Cornell blockchain and how did I end up at this position?
Yeah, sorry. I think I might be having some issues with my connection. But yes, basically my question was, once you joined Cornell Blockchain, did you join as just a member and then work your way up into a leadership position? Give us some more insight into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined the club in 2020, my first semester here on campus. This was during COVID, so things had died down a little bit, but the club was still fairly active, especially the core members. So at the time, the president was Xavier, and he was really knowledgeable, especially in sort of like the quant crypto side of things and more on the research side. So I learned a lot through him. Then I was on the research team my first semester, and then he was graduating, so we needed someone to step in for the head of R&D at the time. So stepped into that role, and then this past semester I was head of investments, and then after our current senior Nick Stam, who is a president and is transitioning over currently over to my role as the next president, um, that's sort of how I slowly climbed up the ladder. And I knew that I love this club and I've been a part of it since one of my first days here on campus. And it's provided me with so many opportunities. I knew that I wanted to give back. So that's one of the main reasons why I, I love spending all my time here. And Cornell really wouldn't be the same without the club for me.
And tell us a bit about the club now. What are some of the ways that you guys facilitate yourselves, whether it's workshops, whether you guys have your own conference? How do you guys educate students that are just coming into the club and getting them bootstrapped with the basic knowledge of how to navigate through this ecosystem, or rather navigate through this industry, build in this industry? And also, what do you guys do to attract newbies, people from the broader Cornell student base into your club?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to unpack there. So a little bit about the history of the club, which I think is pretty cool, especially since we were one of the first clubs. So we were founded in 2017, and we were fortunate that Avalanche was created out of Cornell. So Emin Gunsier and John Wu, the current founder and the president, they were heavily involved in Cornell, and they were actually our advisors early on. So because of their expertise, we were able to gain a lot of traction, especially in sort of the first market bull run, I think, that happened in 2017 or 2018 when a lot of the club members would join. Actually, I think one of the first meetings that Cornell Blockchain had, the room was completely packed and there was people standing outside. Since then, I know Penn was one of the first blockchain clubs to come around, and it's been amazing to see since then so many other universities have followed. Whether that's Dartmouth, Princeton, around the world, there's a group chat with all of us. So it's amazing to see all the work we've been doing. But we're very fortunate that we had Cornell professors here that were so early on in the space that we were able to start all the way back in 2017. Um, so 2017 all the way to around 2019, the club was working. And then in 2019, we had our first blockchain conference. So Emin Gunsier spoke at that first conference, and that was sort of our first big public event we did. And we were one of the first blockchain clubs to actually host a conference. Then COVID happened and things died down a little bit. And then the club members sort of, we didn't have as many as we used to, but crypto was, people were slowly getting interested, especially after COVID. And during COVID, we had a lot of students that were looking into it. So we came sort of out of COVID, and we were like, okay, what's a cool way that we can sort of educate the broader Cornell community about crypto and blockchain and Web3 as a whole? So we somehow convinced the school to allow us to start teaching a course called Introduction to Blockchain. So it was a 2-credit pass-fail course. The school obviously doesn't want us grading students, rightfully so, but they figured pass-fail, unlikely anyone's going to fail, and it would be a fun way for the club to start teaching. So the first semester we taught, there was approximately 70 students or so, 65 students, and we covered just the basics of blockchain. What are basic consensus mechanisms? How do NFTs work? What are some of their applications? And from that, we found that a lot of students were interested, and they actually started to apply to the club. The second time we taught it, we had upwards of 110 students, and then the third time, around 70. So since then, it's been amazing to see the amount of students we've been able to educate, and a lot of them will come back to us and they'll say like, hey, I'm very interested in joining the club. I love the course. It was a great introduction. I've been trading NFTs on the side, but I really want to get more hands-on R&D experience. So that's one of the biggest things that we've found in terms of getting and exposing people to the world of blockchain. And once people sort of join the club, you asked about new members, we like to make sure that they're a cohort and that since a lot of them are freshmen and sophomores, they don't really have a community yet on campus. So we try to make sure that the new incoming class, so this semester we had approximately 15 members, and some of them here are on the call with us, such as Ella. So they were basically working together. They went through a new member education covering different topics ranging from DeFi all the way to NFTs, all the way to different L1s. And so they were able to gain a lot out of it, and they did presentations at the end, and then they joined a team towards the end of the semester, and now they're full-time members. And going back to the courses, this semester we actually are offering a Solidity course more to those that are interested on the developer side of things. So our head of research, Rodrigo, is helping lead our Solidity course, and there's approximately 15 students or so enrolled. And it's amazing to see how the school's been very supportive of us and the amount of students we've been able to educate. And a lot of them, actually, I was on a call yesterday with someone, and she had taken Introduction to Blockchain, came to our conference, which we can talk about later, and she actually met someone there, and she ended up joining their startup. And so she's working there full time now. So it's amazing to see the impact that we've been able to have just by offering this course. And it's something that we love doing. So it's pretty impactful.
Are there any courses taught by university professors at Cornell?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Cornell, obviously the main campus is pretty remote, all the way up in Ithaca, but there are definitely some courses, not necessarily blockchain specific, but we offer cryptography, distributed computing, um, cloud computing as well. So those are some of the classes that students here that are interested in possibly much more technical side of blockchain do. But other than the club, there are no sort of blockchain specific courses. But Cornell is pretty unique in the fact that we have a sister campus on Roosevelt Island in New York City called Cornell Tech. And so that's where obviously a lot of our researchers lie in terms of professors. So Ari Jules is based out of there. Rafael Pass, I think, is also out of there. So a lot of IC3, which is a research institution where Cornell is very heavily a part of, they offer, I think, upwards of 38 courses. And we are, last time I checked, CoinDesk released an article, we are the #1 university for offering the amount of blockchain courses. So we offer stuff ranging there from DeFi and law, Solidity courses, regulation. So that I think is pretty cool. But obviously, being in Ithaca, our students here don't have access to it. So we wanted to make sure that we as the club were giving those the opportunity that wanted to learn a platform in an area where they can really come and learn from people that enjoy teaching.
And Advay, tell us about the Cornell Blockchain Conference. How big is it? You guys have been running for a while. How big is it? What kind of guests can can attendees expect to hear speak? I would love to have more insight into that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started our first conference in 2019, and it was at Cornell Tech. Obviously, it's a pretty cool place for us, given Cornell, and it's a beautiful campus overlooking New York City. You can take the tram in, and it's quite scenic. So it's a beautiful location. So we had our first conference in 2019, and that was sort of one of the first milestones for us in terms of showing us that, hey, we can do this, and we had great attendance then. Um, COVID happened, didn't host any conferences after that. And then this past year, we respun up our conference and because we wanted it to be in person. So this year we had 350 attendees this past year, and we sold out a couple of weeks in advance. So some speakers that we had included John Wu, the president of Avalanche. We had Miko, who is a founder of Gumi Ventures. We had Yida Gao, who is the founder of Shima Capital. We had people from EY, Dexterity Capital. So it was a great event for us, and we had a lot of people that came out, other universities which we're really close with, whether that's Princeton, Harvard, NYU. So that was great for us to really connect with them, and we'd like to help each other out. So it was great for them to have the opportunity to network and really listen to these speakers. And then Cornell Blockchain has a pretty strong community, and we have a lot of people that go into the crypto community after they graduate. So given that a lot of our students after they graduate go to New York City, we had a lot of alumni come back. So it was great networking for us in terms of allowing students to get to meet founders, possibly get internships, but also for people to network. I mentioned the story earlier about the woman who had taken Introduction to Blockchain, went to the conference, found someone, and now she's working there. So I'm sure there's a lot of stories like that, but it was amazing to see that we as a club, it was completely student run. We're very thankful for our sponsors at the time because they were able to fund us and really make sure that we were able to make the best conference happen. So this year happening. It's going to happen again. It's going to be once again at Cornell Tech on Roosevelt Island, April 21st. It's going to be an all-day event, and we're shooting for around 500 people. So some speakers that we have lined up include Kanav Karya, head of Jump Crypto. We have Robert Leshner, founder of Compound. We have Kirti, head of JP Morgan Blockchain, so Onyx. And we're constantly reaching out to more speakers, and we're actively looking for sponsors as well. So should be a super fun event. Going to be possibly some small hackathons during the day, some fun puzzles for people to work on, networking events, multiple panels, um, great food, great venue, and just really an opportunity for us to give back to the community and for our Cornell Blockchain alumni and other people in the industry and academics to come together and really network and learn from cool people in the space.
So going back to the blockchain club, the Cornell blockchain, how easy is it, or rather, what is the process for a student that wants to join? Is it just as easy as simple as showing up and signing a sheet, or is there a vetting period, or how does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of joining the club, so for example, Cornell's pretty well known for finance. So we have a lot of finance clubs here on campus that go through a rigorous process, to say the least. 3 interviews, brain teasers, all that type of stuff. And we really, our main goal is, even if you don't have blockchain knowledge, we don't really care. We want to make sure that you have an innate interest, at least, in learning about blockchain, and you think about how blockchain relates to your life. So when we typically have informational sessions, so we had one yesterday, we had around 45 students come through. We talked to them about the club, and they basically turned in an application saying, why do you want to join Cornell Blockchain? It can be anything ranging from, hey, I'm interested in supply chain, or I've been mining Ethereum for the past 4 years now, and I am very much involved in the space, and I think Cornell Blockchain would be a cool place for me to continue doing that, or to learn more about specific areas. And then we typically have one round of interviews just to make sure that, will the student be a good fit? Because obviously in the past, we've had students that have joined, and the college experience can be very busy. So sometimes they'll sort of drop out of meetings or they won't really be engaged members. But I especially think in the past year, we've had members that are very much involved. And I think specifically having the cohort has been very helpful. So last year we had someone interview and we asked them, hey, like, why are you interested in blockchain? And their answer was, I'm studying weed in the College of Agriculture here at Cornell. We have multiple schools here ranging from hotels. So she was studying weed agriculture at the time. And she said, I think weed and blockchain could be very much combined together in the supply chain. So I think just students that are able to think creatively about how blockchain relates to their current interests or things that they're studying, that's what we mostly look for. We don't care if you know like how Bitcoin hashing works or stuff, but we just want to make sure that you're thinking about how can blockchain revolutionize the future. And even if you think it can, we would love to hear your views. So that's just one of the viewpoints that we come from.
Now, refresh my memory. You probably made this distinction earlier in the space, but the two courses you guys teach, the one that covers the basics of blockchain and the other one that does Solidity 101, I'm assuming, or does it's a course on Solidity. Are these available only to students of the club, or are these available to the broader Cornell student base?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So these are available to the broader Cornell University. So anyone here on the Ithaca campus, ranging from PhDs all the way to master students, people in the hotel school. So our introduction to blockchain class, one of the biggest things, we didn't want a barrier to entry. So we specifically said no prerequisites required. Like we don't care if you've taken computer science, you don't know anything about computers, you don't know anything about math. So it was amazing to see that we had students from agriculture, hotel, um, ranging from architecture. So it was amazing to see that all these students, and they all had different perspectives. So if you have people in the same room that are coming from a computer science background and coming from a hotel background or a business background, it's amazing to see the different viewpoints they have and especially how they can come together to solve problems. So that was one of the biggest things that I found about Introduction to Blockchain. And one of the main reasons I loved it was that you have people from all different backgrounds and they all start to find their niche in it. So we had people in the hotel school that were looking at real estate and sort of like the metaverse. Obviously, the people in computer science were looking at the technical side of things, but the applications I think students specifically got from it being available to everyone was great. The Solidity course currently requires a semester of computer science knowledge, just because we don't want the hurdle to be the first programming language you're learning is Solidity. But Introduction to Blockchain is available to everyone, so that's one of the main reasons we actually decided to offer the course as well.
So before we move on, because I want to talk a bit more about you, is there anything about Cornell blockchain, the club, the students that facilitate the club, the conference, and the broader Cornell student base as it pertains to the Cornell blockchain club, or excuse me, to Cornell blockchain that I haven't asked about that you want to discuss or tell us about or share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple things I think that we didn't touch upon that I think are very interesting that we're sort of starting this semester. So last semester we started an incubator program, an accelerator, because we had a lot of students on campus that were building things. Avalanche had hosted a hackathon around a year ago, and so a couple of the club members had participated and shown up, and the building that was happening was amazing. So there were students which didn't even know about blockchain, and so they were hacking together some amazing things. So we really wanted an opportunity for students on campus that are building in the crypto and blockchain ecosystem, an opportunity to join like an accelerator program where we can provide our resources. So we're fortunate enough that we've yesterday announced a partnership with Alliance DAO as well as Ava Labs. And they're going to be sponsoring our accelerator program and incubation for this next semester. So we're planning on having around 5 or so teams joining us, and we're going to be providing them with speaker series, office hours. We're in talks with multiple VC companies, and then Avalanche and Alliance DAO are obviously going to help us in terms of getting the resources we need, their expertise in the space, their platforms. So really excited for that because I think that could be a really cool avenue to incorporate all the building that's happening on campus, whether that's PhDs, students. We have a law school here on campus, MBA programs. So I think all of those together would be amazing to see the very interesting and unique things that are happening. So that's on the accelerator side of things. Super stoked that's happening, and that's going to be starting up this semester. So feel free to check out our Twitter for the public announcement. And if you're a part of Cornell University and you're interested in joining, or if you're part of a company that's interested in helping out with the accelerator, possibly providing resources, feel free to DM Cornell Blockchain, and we're more than happy to set up a call. Another thing that I think is great that we actually had this semester was we were fortunate enough that the Joe Tsai Foundation had reached out to us, asking us if we wanted to teach a class in the inner cities of New York. So we offered a class this past semester, and I would say there was around 50 members or so. So it was completely funded by the Joe Tsai Foundation and the New York Board of Education. And we actually, similar to how we were teaching Introduction to Blockchain, we wanted an opportunity for high school students that are interested in learning about blockchain and Web3, opportunity to sort of learn from people in the space that have been in there. And it's obviously different if you're learning from a student versus a professor, because I think, especially learning from a student, it's much more relaxed. You feel much more comfortable asking questions. So there was around 45 to 50 high school students from New York that were part of this program, and it was great because the Joe Tsai Foundation was helping us, and actually Mayor Adams came as well towards the end to give like a speech about blockchain. And the New York board has been very supportive of us in terms of allowing us to teach this course. So it was extremely impactful for us. We had all the club members, those that were in New York City. Sadly, I'm based out of Oregon, so I was back home for the summer. But they truly loved it. They were doing their internships during the day, and then afterwards they would go teach this class, and they found it extremely impactful. And we've had students that have reached out to us even afterwards saying, hey, I'm very interested in blockchain. Could you get us in touch? We've had students that have actually asked us to write recommendation letters for their admission, for sort of applying to Cornell. So I think things like that the club has really been able to not only reach out to students here on campus, but also have that New York City presence and give back to the broader community. So hopefully we're going to be doing that again this next summer. And then I think in the next few weeks or so, we're also hosting like a job fair with them as well. So we're continuing to work with them. Really excited. We're planning on actually expanding that program. Fingers crossed, hopefully. But we hope to be able to teach students all throughout New York City, those that are interested, and really provide the curriculum that other sort of larger institutions haven't necessarily been able to do in Cornell blockchain, given that we've been teaching the course on campus and it's truly our passion. It's something that we all love doing, and we have so many alumni in New York City. That's something that we're really trying to make sure we can do this next semester and throughout the years.
Wow. So, Advay, a lot going on, lots to be excited about. I would agree that you guys are quite mature and quite, you guys have made amazing progress since your inception. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of different blockchain clubs, and everyone's in a different period of their life cycle. It's just impressive to see how far your club has come. I want to talk a bit about you now. You said that you're studying math and comp sci, and you're keen on applying this to a career in DeFi, or at least you're interested in DeFi, especially new models that are coming out. So, can you dive a bit into what aspects of DeFi excite you the most? I know you mentioned the options market that's been developing a lot in the last year. So maybe tell us a bit about that and anything else that you think is on the horizon.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to preface this by saying no way am I a DeFi expert, just barely starting a little bit into it as I'm starting to read Twitter a little bit. So I guess I started off in the research space, looking at all sorts of random things, ranging from, I looked at Avalanche's consensus mechanism early on. There was a company that was doing decentralized VPNs. It was one of the first summers, I think, where we saw sports teams doing DAOs and tokens, and then I was in the VC space. So to me, it's sort of like when you're young and you really just you pick a sport and you're like, no, I don't want to play basketball. I want to play basketball, or I want to play football instead, or no, I don't want to do this anymore. Dad and mom, I want to go play soccer or swim. So I'm constantly jumping around to different places. I think one of the biggest things that interests me in DeFi, and one of the things that I've especially learned that interests me in DeFi, and one of the things that I've especially learned through like trying to teach DeFi is that the learning curve is somewhat steep, but there's some cool places to start. So I was interviewing at a place really early on, and they're like, "Have you read the Uniswap V2 paper? Can you explain like the constant market maker model?" I'm like, "No, I can't." He's like, "That's a good place to start." So I think by talking to people in the space, you start to get exposed to different projects. So for DeFi, I think one of the coolest things that sort of speaks out to me, especially is when you start looking at the broader world, especially those that are unbanked, don't have access to borrowing, don't really have access to the traditional financial markets and sort of the banking infrastructure that we here take for granted. So like when I try to explain DeFi to people, they're always like, oh, TradFi is working great. Like, why do you care so much about DeFi? And to me, sort of like reading different articles online and seeing how people around the world, whether that's in Venezuela or these other companies, are turning stable coins and lending protocols to be able to gain money on the side and to really have access to a currency which their government doesn't allow is one of the unique things for me. In terms of like the options and sort of like the that DeFi side of things, I think just sort of reading the math aspect of it and seeing how those are playing out is pretty interesting. Especially, I think in the past year or so, we've seen so many projects come out. Um, for example, Open, I think, and then there's a company from a Cornell professor named Panoptic. So slowly just starting to learn about options in the DeFi space. And obviously they've been around so long in TradFi and they're so complex. It's a very difficult place to start. But I think it's cool to sort of see, and I'm learning about options in traditional finance and see possibly how they differ in DeFi very early on in sort of this exploratory stage. But I think it's very interesting to see. And I think we're going to see much more and many more projects come out in the next year or so. And I think they're really going to revolutionize the way that possibly normal and sort of us investors are able to get access to these financial products.
Is there a specific protocol that you want to work for or help build once you graduate, or do you want to start your own thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I've been definitely thinking about starting my own thing. As to where that's going to fall, I'm not really quite sure. Um, in terms of protocols, nothing that comes to my mind currently at the moment. I mean, there's so many that are doing so many cool things and they're all different in their unique ways. So I think each one of them probably has a unique thing to learn from them.
Great response. So, outside of DeFi, what other sectors of the industry really excite you?
Yeah, I think DAOs are one of a place that I sort of looked somewhat early on. And I think for me, one company that I looked at was LinksDAO. So for those of you that aren't familiar, I think it was formed by Mike Dudas, and it's basically a golf sort of membership. And that in the future is going to grant you access to like a private club. They actually had partnerships with different golf courses, which allowed you access once you had these card passes. You get access to exclusive merch. So I think that's one of the cool things, especially for example, like Alliance DAO, and you have so many of these communities that are working together, and it's sort of like a club and a community start to build. And to me, I'm not that involved in the DAO space, but whenever I'm on Twitter and I see a lot of the networks of DAOs are very closely tied together, and they're sort of like each other's family in a way. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And for me, investment DAOs, I think, are the coolest place, especially coming from like a university standpoint and from a student standpoint, just the ability to pool capital and invest it together. So you've seen like Syndicate, for example, which has allowed the platform to allow like group investing. I think that's pretty cool. Um, so I think that's going to be one of the future sort of group investing. Flamingo DAO is another one that comes to mind for the ability to sort of pool your capital together and then vote on which NFTs to invest. So I haven't really seen that take off necessarily with everyone in this space. And I know people have their differing viewpoints on DAOs, but those are one of the biggest things I see coming together. And I can talk more about how we see that fitting into the club aspect of things, but I think that's one area that I'm truly interested in learning more about. And I think Syndicate and these companies that are allowing platforms to create DAOs very easily, I think those are amazing and are really going to revolutionize the space in terms of accessibility to DAOs and for people to start them up.
It seems to me that a lot of students, a lot of university students, are very excited about DAOs and are working closely with implementing DAOs. So keep my eye on that space. Um, I want to do a fun Q&A and just take it all with a grain of salt, audience members. I do it with every blockchain club representative, in this case, the president that comes on. Um, and it's just, I love to hear what Gen Z's take is, because as I mentioned to you before in private, Advay, and as I've said many times, you guys are going to be the next wave of money, interest, adoption, and great minds that push this industry to the next level. So, with that said, Bitcoin. What are your thoughts about Bitcoin? Do you think it's going to remain the top dog? Do you think it's eventually going to be flipped? If so, what's going to flip it? Let's hear it.
Yeah, this is actually really funny that you brought this up. So the first token that I bought was Bitcoin. So I was working at the firm that I mentioned early on doing research, and Bitcoin was, I think, 19,000 at the time. Didn't buy it, bought it around a few months later. But I didn't know any other tokens that existed. The reason that I thought this question was funny was that my roommate's an econ major. So I was sitting in on his options class the other day, and all these professors here on campus, the first thing, like in the first week, for some reason, all they're talking about is crypto. And so I sat in on this entire lecture on crypto and Bitcoin, and he was just shitting on it the entire time. And it really got me to think, like, okay, like, and some of the points that he brought up were like pretty valid, saying that, okay, where is this intrinsic value coming from? Like, I understand the whole like hashing like sort of environment, and you're getting sort of the intrinsic value from that, and I understand how it works. But to me, it really made me question, saying, okay, like Bitcoin might not necessarily be the future, but personally, I'm not going to invest in any more Bitcoin, but I think Bitcoin was great sort of as a, I mean, it was one of the first, but I think there's some things that people don't really realize that Bitcoin pioneered. So colored coins were a thing that were on Bitcoin, which were basically one of the first NFTs. So I think a lot of things that sort of came later on in different chains, such as Ethereum, were actually sort of started in Bitcoin. So personally, not going to be investing any more Bitcoin, but that's sort of my stance on it without taking any extremist side.
Did you answer the question though? Is anything going to flip it? I'm going to put you on the
Is
spot.
anything going to flip it? Um,
And if so, what do you think Ethereum will flip Bitcoin eventually?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so then let's lead into that. Give us your thoughts on Ethereum, and I'm talking about an Ethereum with sharding after the purge, with
Mhm.
hundreds of highly scalable layer twos rollups, and having that layer one be just a chain of proofs and security. Let's hear your thoughts on the future of Ethereum. Not to be an Ethereum shill.
No, 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 definitely understandable. And I think, yeah, one of the main things that comes to mind, like you mentioned, sharding and sort of that things was there was a video of Vitalik saying that he's like holding his phone in his hand. He's saying like, okay, in the future, you're going to be able to verify blocks in your phone. And that's sort of the future that I keep envisioning when I think of Ethereum, is just the ability of mass scalability, especially the ability to have possibly nodes running on your phone, and the ability to sort of use your phone as sort of the main uh, in terms of decentralization, having phones being able to do that. So I think that's sort of where I see Ethereum going in the future, and I truly believe that it's going to be interesting. But I've seen so many chains that have been sort of competing with each other, and it's been very hard for me to stay on track, whether that's Polygon or Avalanche or all these different L1s. But I definitely think that Ethereum, just because of its history and it has so many great projects on there. That's currently a space and sort of a chain that I'm actively looking into. But I definitely think the future, in terms of like Vitalik's mindset for mass scalability, is definitely a very good viewpoint to have. And I think that's sort of why I think Ethereum is in a very good position to scale in the future.
You're a Cornell student and soon will be a Cornell alumni. Amin is a Cornell alumni, or I believe he is. I know he's a professor at one point. But what are your thoughts on Avalanche?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things that comes to me about Avalanche is sort of their ability to work with other revolutionary Web2 companies. So they released, I think, this past week or 2 weeks or so, a partnership with Amazon AWS. So I think things like that are very interesting. And I also saw, I played chess in high school, sort of interested in it and stay up to date. We've seen so many streamers come out talking about chess. But so I think they did a partnership with FIDE in sort of the allowing your rankings to be online. So I think strategic partnerships like that is one of the main places that Avalanche especially is succeeding as compared to possibly other competitors out there. I think another one is gaming. I think it's one of the biggest things that Avalanche is trying to target. Gaming isn't a space that I'm particularly interested in or that involved in, but specifically talking to some of the Cornell alumni in the Avalanche space, I think gaming is going to be a very big thing, especially because of scalability, the ability to run your own chain, and the customizability in terms of validators, permissionless, not permissionless. I think those sort of things were quite revolutionary early on. I mean, Emin Gunsier has been in the crypto space so long. I think all the way since like early Bitcoin. And he was very much like he knew the consensus mechanisms. He taught distributed computing here. So I think his sort of fusionary revolutionary mindset in terms of the consensus mechanism, scalability, and really thinking through some of the problems that Bitcoin and other chains have, I think they're going to continue to be able to push forward the ability to really grow. And I think Avalanche this morning also said they're donating $1 million to the earthquake that recently happened. So I think things like that really speak to Avalanche's sort of contribution to the broader community and making sure the crypto and Web3 community succeed.
Tell us a bit about your time playing chess in high school. Did you play in big tournaments?
Yeah, so I guess sort of a funny story. Um, Started playing chess pretty early on. My dad played chess, so played in chess tournaments. I think up until I was in fifth grade, was in a tournament in fourth grade, lost to a fifth grader, and said, "Okay, I'm done with this. I hate playing chess. No one likes losing, especially when you're young, and especially when you're sort of like training." And I was doing tournaments every weekend. I was a part of the Portland Chess Club. Stopped playing, and then in high school, I was fortunate enough that there was a senior at my school who was a chess master. So there were some members at our school that were very good, and sometimes they would need a fifth player to play because no one else could show up. So I would be like, all right, I have nothing else to do. I haven't prepared. It's extremely low stakes for me. I don't care if I win or lose. I'm here for fun. So I started playing and stuff like that, and then played in state my senior year and actually ended up getting first place, and we won the tournament. So I think just a low stakes. Now I treat it as a low stakes environment, but I think taking a break from it when I was little and more coming to it as a hobby, not necessarily something which I have to win, is something that I love doing. And the Botes twins, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. They're from Oregon. They played in some of the tournaments I used to play at. So I think things like that are really revolutionizing chess. And I personally think chess is going to become massive in the next few years. Chess and poker are the two things I think are going to go completely mainstream, like on video game level, like Xbox and PS4s and PS5s and whatnot. So excited to see that sort of take off.
I was very similar to you. My uncle taught me how to play chess, and I played a lot in elementary school. And I actually got wrecked. I was really good. I was really good at my respective elementary school, but I actually got wrecked. I think I was in sixth grade by a second grader, man. And this kid was just amazing. I don't even know. He's probably some genius now, doing amazing things. But I took a break from it, and I actually got back into chess again in college. And it got to a point where I had this chess app on my phone, and it got to a point where like people were yelling at me to get off my phone because I was playing chess all the time. So I go through phases where I get really addicted to chess, and then I kind of drop off for a while. So we should play some time offline. You probably crush
No,
me,
no,
but it'll
definitely,
be a lot of fun.
definitely not. No, yeah. Speaking to the point that you played a second grader, because I hadn't played in like 7 or 8 years, and I played for the first time in high school, and my rating was so bad because the last time I played was in fourth grade. So I'm sitting there, sitting across like third and fourth graders in my first chess tournament, and I was the only one which had like a beard, and I was like, oh man, this is quite embarrassing. But you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, definitely open to playing chess sometime, and we'll hit you up after this.
Yeah, for sure. I've been on the other side of that too. My mom used to take me to Pokemon tournaments, and I would be like the only kid there. Everyone else is an adult with beards, and I'd just be crushing everybody. So I've experienced both sides of that. But anyway, we're going on a tangent. Let me bring it back. NFTs. Advay, NFTs. Which industries do you see NFTs disrupting the most? And you can't say gaming or art or music or entertainment. I want more like. I want more out of the box, kind of relatively long term paradigm shifts that you think are going to happen.
Yeah, so one thing for me, I don't know if this counts. Feel free to say something else. Authentication in terms of Oregon's head to Nike, so sort of a sneakerhead here, but um, I think authentication is a pretty big part in terms of validating sneakers. And I know that Nike does have a crypto team, and we've seen like RFKT, I think, come out with like shoe NFTs, but I think that could be one place where crypto and the sneakerhead community specifically combine, and it's a great chance to sort of allow that to happen. I think Goat, which is an online reselling website, maybe a year ago or so, they were releasing NFTs where they kept a sneaker in their own vault, sort of like stablecoins, but for sneakers. I think Nike sued them or something, but that's one place in terms of like authentication. Watches is another thing, sort of like these luxury goods where you see validation and sort of you have so many papers that people end up losing, and why not verify them on the blockchain? So if you're buying a used Rolex, or expensive watch, you might as well, rather than just seeing the papers and talking to the person that just owned it previously, it would be great if you could see the history and sort of how many owners has it been through in the past. And you just can't lie on a blockchain doing that. So I think things like that could be great. And I haven't seen, other than Nike and some companies, I haven't really seen that taking off. So that's one big place that I might make a startup in that, who knows? But I think things like that could possibly be revolutionary. That's just my viewpoint. If anyone thinks that that won't be the case, more than happy to talk and learn your viewpoints. But that's one place that I've just been toying around and thinking about lately.
I did not even think of that. But that's a great example of a paradigm shift that's already happening. We're starting to see the beginnings of it. Um, let's see, Advay, what are your thoughts on the market in the next 3 years? Again, speculating is fun, and would love to know if you think we've bottomed.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question. So, I mean, I've been talking to so many companies in like the last few weeks, and I think everyone's in a similar boat, just waiting to see the ramifications that FTX had and all these large companies had. And I think we might see that ripple, but personally, I think we sort of saw the bottom already. I mean, ETH, I think, is 1670 already, so sort of back up. Um, so personally, I think it's going to go up in the future, but I mean, it's not only I'm surrounded by crypto native people, but also being on a college campus around so many different people. And the sentiment that happened during COVID in 2021 in the massive bull run where you had students that were talking about crypto all the time, like I was sitting at lunch tables, you would hear people investing on their Robinhood accounts. It's just not there anymore. So as to whether we're going to see sort of another large run from people outside of the community, and you have so many asset managers such as like Fidelity, BlackRock, um, so many of them that are specifically targeting people like my parents, they were very strong around a year or 2 years ago, really making sure that they were releasing products. And I think I've seen that die down a little bit. So I think once we start seeing sort of Web 2 and sort of these traditional financial companies continue to push out um, products that allow people like my parents to invest, I think that's going to be sort of the next time where we'll see the market continue to go up and sort of return to the peaks that we had seen earlier.
If you were to go on the Cornell campus and just interview 100 students, people that aren't part of Cornell blockchain, what do you think the general sentiment would be like towards this industry now after all this nonsense and the implosion of FTX and Terra Luna fiasco has happened? And what I mean by that, or I guess what I'm trying to get at, is within millennials, for example, or even Gen Xers and Boomers that consume so much legacy media, there seems to be this disdain or just lack of interest towards crypto because of what they hear in the news. And from what I understand, Gen Zs don't feel as strongly against crypto, but I would love to hear what you think about, or rather, what you think about your fellow students on campus.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So I mentioned I went to the econ class and all the professors here are shitting on Bitcoin. I think I've starting to see the repercussions of that a little bit, just because there was one I went to the professor after class. I'm like, hey, like you're mentioning Bitcoin, but there's Ethereum out there, there's Avalanche, there's Polygon, there's all these companies that are doing so many cool things that don't have the problems that you talked about in Bitcoin. There was only one other kid that stayed afterwards to talk to him about it with me, and he was talking about Monero, I think. So, and yesterday I polled people that had come to our informational session saying, hey, who here is invested in crypto? And I think it was 3 or 4 kids compared to the like 50-60% I'd seen early on. So I definitely think companies like all the FTX scandal, all the stuff had become so meme that everyone immediately, if they hadn't heard about crypto before, that's the first thing that came to their mind, and then they just let it go. So I definitely think it's going to be difficult to start to convince people about the cool things that crypto is doing. Even in our introduction to blockchain course, we went all the way from 120 students all the way down to 20 students, like 100 student reduction, which is insane to see. Just I think it's because of all the news. Um, so I definitely think it's going to have long lasting repercussions. It's definitely going to take a lot of education and just some new companies to come out, and especially for companies to start targeting different products that Gen Z users use, whether that's, I mentioned chess.com, whether that's the music space. I think those are the things that they're going to have to start targeting in order for Gen Z and other individuals to start changing their minds back about crypto.
You said, and I agree, there need to be more tangible use cases, and there needs to be more of a Web3, or excuse me, a Web2 type front end UI with when it comes to Web3. People need to be interfacing with this stuff without going through all the steps and hurdles that we go through every day. You said that you're pretty much done buying Bitcoin. A two-part question. Does that mean that you just hodl the Bitcoin that you bought and you're going to see where that goes? And my second question is, what are you DCAing into in this bear market?
Yeah, so in terms of Bitcoin, I haven't sold any of my crypto, and because I'm a college student, I don't really invest that much. Not currently actively investing, mostly just staying up to date. Yeah, in terms of buying stuff, haven't really thought about it yet, given the semester. So for me, it's usually I invest either in the winter or the summer when I have time and sort of. Whoops. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I hit the messaging
No
button on
worries.
accident.
Yeah, that's that part of it. So no current investing going on my side.
All right, I'm not going to let you off the hook that easy. If I gave you $100,000 right now and you had to DCA in the crypto with it, it's the only way you can spend it. What would be some assets that? What are some assets and projects that you find interesting?
Okay. Are NFTs allowed?
NFTs are allowed.
Okay.
Anything in the Web3 industry is allowed.
Okay.
Whatever you want.
Beautiful. So I would say I would allocate around 20,000 to ETH, 20,000 to Polygon. I think Polygon's doing some pretty cool things, and I think especially Jump with their Fire Dancer. Oh wait, that's Solana. So Polygon's a company that I think is doing specifically cool stuff in terms of marketing as well. Um, so we're currently at 50,000, 20,000, 30,000, and I think Utes is one that I recently just heard about Utes, and I was like, all right, let me see like how much the floor price is, and I'm like, all right, this is ridiculous for a college student to buy right now. But I listened to some Twitter Spaces by Frank. He's a super upbeat guy, like amazing communicator, has some really cool things planned for the Ute community. And I think just hearing the sentiment around it, I think like that could possibly be the next Bored Ape in terms of like getting that mass outreach. And I think they're hosting an event in New York City. So I think that's a project that I think is pretty cool and going to take off in the near future. So I would allocate, let's say, around 30,000 to that, and we have around 20,000 to play with. Um, I think Ribbon Finance has tokens, and I think they're doing some pretty cool stuff, especially in the options market and allowing people to sort of invest without having a lot of knowledge and sort of like the different options that are available and sort of managing a lot of that. So I think I would do 20,000 left over that. And he's also a Cornell alumni, so got to support. But that would sort of be the makeup that I would have in my portfolio.
I love it. And if Andrew Forte was in here right now, he would probably be all over that Utes comment, or that Utes investment, that Utes show, whatever you want to call it. He's big on Utes, and I gotta look into Utes. I keep hearing a lot about it. I keep hearing a lot about him. I haven't dove too deep into Utes yet, but I think it's about time.
Yeah, Checks is another one I'm seeing pop up. Haven't looked into it, um, but slowly seeing that pop up. Got to look into what exactly that project's about. But yeah,
Hey, look, Advay, it's been really great having you on. And, anytime you want to come back and give us updates as far as what Cornell blockchain is doing, if you guys are going to start teaching any new courses that students should know about, if you guys have any updates as far as the conference goes, if you guys are going to be developing something new, something exciting that's on the roadmap, and you want to get exposure to that, you're always welcome. I tried to ask as many high level questions as I could. Is there anything at all, and I know we did this about halfway through, but I'm going to ask you again, is there anything that you are interested in telling us about, or that you guys have coming down the roadmap, anything at all? Go ahead and share with us now. If not, leave us with some final words. It's been a pleasure having you on today.
yeah, definitely. I guess I'll start off by saying that we here at Cornell Blockchain are very excited about the conference, which is coming up on April 21st. Um, so if any of you guys are interested in sponsoring, participating in the conference, speaking, please DM Cornell Blockchain. We're always checking the messages there, and we're more than happy to set up a call. We are a student-run organization, so we do want to make sure that tickets are free for those that are not able to pay for them. Club members can come down there. People from other clubs, we like to invite them as well. So we really try to make sure that we give back to the community. So conference is the biggest thing, and then definitely follow our Cornell blockchain Twitter. We're constantly posting updates, whether that's the accelerator courses we're having here on campus. We do Twitter spaces as well. So that is that. But other than that, I guess thank you for having me so much. I love the crypto and Web3 community. It's been great to see Cornell blockchain grow, especially in the last 2.5 years in the history for where we've come, especially from 2017 and the great things we've been able to accomplish. And I think, especially in the near future, we're very excited to be working with other clubs and organizations and are ready to give back to the broader community and to revolutionize crypto and Web3 and blockchain as a whole.
I love it, Advay. One last thing, my buddy Anthony's on the stage. I'm sure he has a question for you, so I'm going to pass the mic to him real quick.
Not so much a question. I actually just wanted to commend you for your work. My business partner, Croissant, also just came up, and we've been attending all of the Cornell e-seminars on blockchain and everything Web3 related. And it's been outstanding, extraordinarily informative. I didn't know you guys had a club as well, a student run. So this has been great. I really appreciate everything you're doing. And I suggest and recommend everybody get involved as much as you can. This is something special. It's exciting to see Cornell as an institution empowering the students in this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to follow that up, I very similarly, I wanted to come up and just kind of, vouch for you guys and say, yeah, that, Anthony and I are taking these seminars and they are just so educational. You guys have amazing panelists, and every one of them I walk away and I've learned something, and it was, done in a really well, a way that it wasn't like the content wasn't dry, right? Like even some of the talks, they're very, high level, talking about securities, law, all kinds of stuff. But the master's professor from Cornell Law ran the security seminar recently, and and he's talking to us in ways that we could totally understand. Comparing it to using a currency to buy a sandwich, and just really kept the conversations going very well. And I just wanted to just come up and say, I come and talk all the time with Noah. Hey Noah, thanks for having us up. And I loved seeing you guys on here. This was so cool. Noah, super cool you got these guys on here. And I just wanted to say, to everybody listening, I've been there, and the seminars are great. I definitely recommend this. And thank you to Cornell. Like, I was so excited when I even found you guys to have, a prestigious university putting out information. I mean, obviously I'm not surprised in any way that it's so high quality,
Yeah, you got 3 hearts at once. That was awesome. Thank you, Anthony and Croissant, for coming up here and sharing your comments and thoughts. Advay, I gotta check out some of these seminars, man. Now I feel like I'm missing out. So yeah, look, anytime, again, like I said, anytime you guys want to come back and give us updates or just share the podium, share the stage, definitely do so. Croissant and Anthony come on our Twitter spaces oftentimes and engage in these Socratic style discussions. So you're welcome to do that as well. But Advay, it's been a pleasure, and best of luck to you, man. Take care.
Thank you, Will, Coin Talk, and Noah so much for this opportunity, and excited for future collaborations with us.
Yeah, I am excited for those as well. A lot coming down the pipeline. Not going to reel too much on the mic here, but we've been talking a lot in the background, Advay, and I'm definitely excited for what we have coming. So, Whale Coin Talk community, thank you for joining again. I've been hosting a lot of spaces, so sorry if I sound a little tongue twisted, a little exhausted in my speech. I'm going strong. I'm not going to stop anytime soon. But remember, everything that you hear on these broadcasts is meant for educational purposes only, right? Nothing is financial advice. We speculate for fun, and we don't know where the market's going or what's going to happen. So be safe out there. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow morning for a Twitter space with Garrett Jones, followed by an episode of The Aquarium. So everyone take care. Bye-bye.